On today's show, the Mavs have a 25% chance to nail their future if they get this draft right. There's a lot of opportunities. We'll talk about all of them. Today's Locked On Mavs.
This is Cooper Flagg, and you're listening to Locked On Mavs.
Zone 5. Nick, that's a good question.
Good morning, Isaac. All these changes, I still got my dog, Dwight Powell.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Still can't leave you.
Your team every day.
I'm going to get a city like that.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks, your team every day. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Mavs for over 10 years. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On Mavs your first listen, and making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network out there. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app. See what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 5 to 6:30 Central Time. I'm joined by Nathan Grubel from No Ceilings, Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings. Great show, multiple time the week he's over there talking about all these guys at the top of the board. Nathan, what you got for me today?
I'm excited to be here, Nick. Our first podcast together. I know I'm on the #1 sports podcasting network because that intro beat you got over here on Locked On Mavs, I'm like fighting the urge to just, jam out over here.
That's
man.
right.
This is great stuff.
When the Mavs win, or like when they did win in the past, we would let it ride and we would just...
That's what I'm saying. Let's go.
And there was a whole controversy because I had to change the intro. It was better than this one before, and then we changed music libraries. I had to change it, and then like the entire fan base revolted against me. And sometimes you gotta follow suit if you're gonna be on TV. That's what you gotta do.
100%. Listen, it's gonna be a great time today. I'm excited. Let's talk Mavs. Let's talk draft. Let's do it.
You just said to me that there is a ton of guards. This is a great draft if you need to get guards. The Dallas Mavericks absolutely need that, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the next tier after the top three because there's a clear top three, and then there's a bunch of guys underneath that, and so you've got some guys you're keying in on after that. But let's start here because we have talked a little bit on this show about the draft. We've dove in a little bit. Isaac's got his guys that he already likes, that he's already going after, that he already thinks the Mavericks should take. But I want to go big picture on this. I want to ask you, you're the expert. You follow all these guys all the time, and you work with No Ceilings, and you guys over there cover the draft in a way that nobody else really does. The depth, seeing all these guys in person and all that. I want to talk about these top three guys. It's Darryn Peterson, AJ Dybantsa, Cameron Boozer. And as I was looking through the No Ceilings, breadth of work that you guys have done, big boards, Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings shows and all that, you guys have Cameron Boozer, #1 overall right now. It seems like across the board, you guys are in agreement about him being #1. And I've heard Darryn Peterson #1. I've heard AJ Dybantsa #1. But why is it Cam Boozer? It seems like you guys are maybe bucking the trend here with everybody else.
So in our most recent mock draft, we did end up going with Darryn first overall. However, you're correct to point out in terms of our rankings, our analysis, that we're pretty much aligned across the board, or we have been, with Cameron Boozer at Duke as the #1 overall prospect in this class. 6'9", 250 pounds, is putting up a historic season. Really, Nick, all three of these top guys are. I wrote a great piece for NoCeilingsNBA.com specifically laying out why the top of this draft is historic. If you put, we're going to talk about Cam, but you put any of these three guys, lay out their numbers across the boards, counting stats, advanced metrics. The only player over the last 15 years, which is how long I've been scouting the draft and covering these prospects, who comes close to their production is Zion Williamson at Duke at 2019. And we all know how special that season was. So Cam, in particular, having a better season than Zion did at Duke, 23 points per game, almost 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 59% from the field, 38 from three, 75 from the line. He's producing across the board, rebounding. He has a 26 assist rate, which is normally a metric you'd see from a point guard. He's doing that at power forward. Steal rates, block rates, low turnover guy, soaking up usage, a 19.4 box plus a BPM number. That's insane. At 8 games against top 50 competition, the numbers are even better than that across the board. This guy can do every single thing you would want someone to do on offense. He can shoot. He can handle it. He can pass it. You can have him operate at the top of the floor. You can play him out of short roll actions. You can have him run pick and roll. You can post him up. He is the most versatile offensive player that we have in this draft class. There's some questions out there about, his quote unquote top tier athleticism. Is he really an elite athlete? If he's not, how does that potentially factor into what he's going to do in the NBA? There's some defensive questions. Is he an anchor around the basket? What is he going to give you on that end? But I mean, Nick, you being a Mavs guy, you watch someone who isn't an elite athlete obliterate, and I mean obliterate opposing teams for years. We've seen the guys like Nikola Jokic do it. Obviously, Luka's who we're talking about. You go down the list of guys who are top 25 in the NBA. They're not all elite athletes. What they do have, though, is their mind is their superpower. And you're seeing a lot of that from Cam Boozer at Duke in particular. And that's why, at least for me, but for a lot of us at No Ceilings, Cam Boozer's number one overall on my board.
Incredible. So right here with the Mavericks right now, I mean, it's
pledge allegiance to the flag, man.
I mean, that's where we are right now. You're saying he's having a better season than Cooper Flagg did at Duke right now. And
go look at a lot of the numbers across the board, man. Better season.
And a lot of the traits that you talked about, the ability to pass, the ability to create your own shot. He's shooting really well from three right now. A lot of those traits are kind of similar with Cooper Flagg, but tell me how they're different players.
So Cooper has a lot working for him on the defensive end that you're not going to see from Cam. Like, Cooper is an unbelievable team defender. He's doing a much better job so early in his career with the Mavs in his first year, actually guarding guys one-on-one. We thought maybe that might be a little bit of a short-term weakness for him, but always had a lot of the team defensive stuff around him. Incredible defensive playmaker. That's really where I think Cooper separates himself. And one of the popular questions we've seen come around in particular is if Cooper was in this draft, because remember, he reclassified up. Right. He was technically supposed to be in this class. Who would you have number one overall between these three guys and Cooper? I would still have Cooper number one overall. I still think how he projects long-term. I mean, he can be a Jason Tatum level type wing who can create for you, also really lock guys up on defense. Like, I still like that bet long-term, but just underneath him, I would have Cam number two, because a lot of their offensive skills that we talked about do overlap from a handling and passing perspective. And then the shooting touch, I mean, at this point in their careers, it's not even close who's the better shooter between them. It's Cam.
And then next after Cam Boozer, I'm seeing Darryn Peterson a lot. Is that who you have next?
Yeah, Darryn Peterson would be number two, 22 points per game, 4.4 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 50, 40, 83 from the field, 36.5% usage rate. He's shooting over 40%, Nick, on basically 16 three-point attempts per 100 possessions, which is absurd volume. Really, how you boil down Darren's game is he hasn't really been asked to show a lot of the premier passing elements and playmaking elements to his game, but he has been a ridiculous scorer from the field. He's been efficient at every single level. He can create shots out of thin air. He can get you three-point shots off the bounce, three-point shots off the catch. He's been efficient at doing all of it. And when he has been asked to take over and run some pick and roll possessions, really be that primary creator for that team, he has yet to turn the ball over running a pick and roll in college. So I'd say that's pretty good. 47% catch and shoot threes, 68% at the rim. This guy's doing everything. And how I would pitch Darryn in particular is, if, let's just say for argument's sake, he doesn't quote unquote evolve past the player he's already been at Kansas, an elite 3-and-D level guard / wing at 6'5" with his athleticism, with his length. I mean, that's a player who fits into any team construct that you can think of. He's just a guy you want on your team. So you factor in, because of his athleticism, because of how he processes and sees the floor, how much upside there still is to unpack with him once he gets to the NBA. That's why you're seeing a lot of people project him at number one overall or at number two, probably at worst across the board. Darryn has that superstar type upside that you're looking for in a shooting guard.
I thought they said that the AAU culture was ruining like sports. We're just pumping out these guys like, oh, here's Cooper Flagg, here's Cam Boozer, these big dudes that can handle the ball and shoot. Here's Darryn Peterson and Dylan Harper, these athletic like guards that are big, that can handle pick and roll and can do a whole bunch of stuff. Like, man, like there's just so much talent now coming out of the top of the draft. And then give me AJ Dybantsa. Give me the descriptor on him and why he's maybe third out of these three guys.
AJ Dybantsa out of BYU, 6'9", 210-pound forward, almost 23 points per game on the season, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 55% from the field. He also is another one of these jumbo creators on the wing who can do a little bit of everything for your team. I've seen him up close and personal have one of his best second half performances that we've seen in college basketball this season. I was at the Garden with Corey Tulaba when they played Clemson, really took over in the second half, and you could see everything that makes him a potential star in the NBA. Operated in the middle part of the floor, got guys shots from the middle part of the floor, shot over guys, took over as a mid-range scorer, nailed those catch and shoot threes when he was asked to do so when the ball swung back around to him. He can do a lot of the things you want from a number one option at the next level. The issue, though, is I think he's behind the 8 ball of those other 2 guys in terms of making the right decisions consistently. We saw that this past weekend in conference play. In conference play in particular, one of the things I noted over on the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast is his production in conference play has gotten weaker compared to where he's been on the season. Only a 53.9% true shooting percentage and a 17 turnover rate, which is up pretty considerably from where he's been at other parts in the season. So we're seeing him fluctuate a little bit, have some of these up and down moments. It's coming back to a lot of the decision-making on film, breaking guys down. How does he read that next layer of the defense? Can he get the ball to where he needs to? Or is he going to settle for some of these shots where he's driving into 2, 3, 4 guys on the opposing defense? That's going to drive NBA coaches nuts. That drives me nuts watching it on the tape. So he's still working through a lot of things. But in terms of just raw upside between these 3 guys, if everything clicks for him, Nick, he probably does have the highest upside of these 3 guys.
So we've got AJ Dybantsa, the do-it-all wing that has maybe the highest potential, but also maybe the lower floor because of the decision-making. We've got Darryn Peterson, who's the big guard that is incredibly efficient, do-it-all, has not turned the ball over at all in a pick and roll, which is incredible. That's an incredible stat. And then Cam Boozer, who's the big forward that can do it all, hit a shot, run a pick and roll, screen, do all that, maybe struggles on defense. Incredible top of the class. But coming up, let's get into who's next after that. If the Mavs don't end up top 3, could they still get somebody awesome? Nathan still thinks they can. We'll tell you why coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook with all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. They also have NBA Happy Hour happening all the time on Fridays. You can go check it out, a limited window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before action starts. You can check out all the different things there on Fridays. That's between 5 and 6:30 Central Time. But FanDuel also has the draft odds right now. Darryn Peterson is the number 1 for them. Minus 135 to be the number 1 pick. AJ Dybantsa plus 140. So they are in agreement that those 2 guys are at the top. And then Cam Boozer plus 750. So he's dropped a little bit far back behind those 2. So FanDuel does not agree with no ceilings, or at least the betting odds don't agree that Cam Boozer will be the number 1 pick. But maybe a team will draft him 3rd and get the best player. So that'll be interesting to see that. The next tier, which we're about to talk about, Caleb Wilson plus 10,000 to be the number 1 pick. That does not seem like it's going to happen. And then all the other guys they have are plus 20,000. Mikael Brown Jr., Nate Ahmet, Koa Pete, a bunch of guys like that are plus 20,000. Just no shot that those guys are going to be up there. So check out FanDuel, all kinds of different things you can do before tip-off. Check out the FanDuel app. See what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday, 5 to 6:30 Central Time. Little basketball, little action, whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad. That's what we call our listeners, listening every single day. Appreciate you for checking out the show. Your second listen today should be Locked On NBA Draft with no ceilings. Nathan and Maxwell did a great top of the mock draft the other day where they went through picks 1 through 6 and talked all about why they think Cam Boozer should be number 1 and all that. Then they're doing the mock draft over there on Locked On NBA Draft with no ceilings all week. So that's going to be an awesome listen for you there. Also follow Nathan at Draft Deeper everywhere on social. All right, Nathan, we're talking about the top of the draft. We went through the top 3 and just gave a brief overview on those 3 guys. And it's, if the Mavs get top 3, I think that they've nailed their future. Any of those guys, I think it's Flagg, it's the other guy, and then boom, like you're moving forward with those guys. If the Mavs land lower than that, which could obviously happen, the Mavs are not tanking as well as they should right now. If this is their goal. Who are the next guys for you? Is it Caleb Wilson? That seems to be the consensus that I've seen, at least, that Caleb Wilson is like the 4 out of the this whole draft.
It is Caleb Wilson, Nick, and for clarity's sake, when I specifically construct tiers, I'm not necessarily tiering guys just by, these are the first 3 on my board, maybe there's another tier here. I like to specifically project out their ceilings and tier them that way. So in a tier 1, I have all 3 of those guys that we talked about, which to me is an MVP caliber talent. That means you could potentially be a top 5 player in the NBA. I've never had 3 guys with that grade all at once in the same draft class.
In 15 years. So we're going all the way back to what, like 2000?
We're going back to 2011. Yeah, in 15 years, I've never had 3 players all have that grade at the same time. My second tier, still pretty good ceiling, an all NBA caliber player. So we're talking like top 15 potentially. That to me is Caleb Wilson out of North Carolina, having an incredible year, 20 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 58% from the field. What's really impressive to him about me is that 18.5% rebounding rate, 18.1 assist rate, 3.0 steal rate, and a 4.6 block rate. This means that he is contributing to every single facet of the game for North Carolina. If he has to be a quick decision maker, he's doing that. He's crashing the glass on both ends of the floor. He's been a consistent defensive playmaker, being a ball hawk, getting his team out in transition, and then finishing those plays himself, still soaking up a lot of usage. They're involving him all over the floor with a 13.4 box plus minus. This dude has been spectacular. He is the best motor in the class. He's the best athlete, in my opinion, in this class. Better athlete than AJ Dybantsa, which has been a really good point of debate for a lot of scouts in this space. But the main weakness to me with Caleb right now is the jump shot. He's not a consistent three-point shooter yet, only 23.5% on the season. I like the mechanics. I like the form. I think that's going to get there for him. The other small concern I have with Caleb is a lot of his game is predicated on his elite athleticism. And we've generally seen a lot of these players who, when they rely on it, if something happens, I'm not trying to speak anything into existence, but if something happens, we've seen those guys who don't necessarily have a lot of the skilled elements to their game to compensate. We can see what can potentially happen to those players down the road. So I do want to see Caleb still work on his ball handling, still work on his outside shot. But again, if we talk about just pure pie in the sky ceiling, if all of these guys put it together, who ends up on top, I could see Caleb Wilson finish as one of the top 2 guys in this draft class, one of the top 3 guys in this draft class. It's very possible, just a lot more work to be done in terms of getting him there versus those top 3 guys that we just talked about.
What do you see from him on the next level? What's his role on an NBA team? You can use the Mavs as an example.
I think the most idealized version of him, if a lot of different things come together, would be like what you're seeing from Pascal Siakam, what you've seen from him in Toronto, what you see from him in Indiana. Someone who can handle the ball in transition, make plays downhill, can finish plays for you, awesome dunker, awesome cutter, really instinctual roll man. You can utilize him a bit in the short roll. The thing with Pascal is what tied a lot more of his game together, those transition elements, and even what he can do in the half court, is when he became a much more reliable jump shooter, not just from 3, but also from the mid-range, being able to, operate out of the nail, get to a lot of those mid-range type shots. I think Caleb has that similar type of upside. If Caleb becomes the player who I think he can be, I think that's a lot of what it will look like in the NBA.
All right. Do you have anybody else on the next tier?
Tier 2, I have Caleb as the only guy right now. However, I'm perfectly open at this point in the process, we're only in January, to adding some names to that second tier. I think if I had to add one or look at another player who's next up, it would be Houston's Kingston Flemings, 1 point guard out of like 5 point guards that I have really in this next segment of my rankings. This is a loaded point guard class. So if the Dallas Mavericks, who I think are a very good candidate to get a point guard in this draft, or any other teams who need a point guard, this is the draft to do it, because a lot of these guys project to have all-star level ceilings with the ball in their hands. Kingston Flemings right now, 15 points per game, 5 assists, 52% from the field, 38.5 from 3, almost 80 from the line. A 60 true shooting mark for a guard, a little ridiculous. A 34 assist rate means he's taken over a lot of the team's playmaking burden as a freshman, and a 13.6 BPM. I think the thing to keep in mind, Nick, with Flemings is a lot of scouts had him on their radars before this season started. He was one of the most popular names I got from actually talking to scouts who work in the NBA, as someone to keep an eye on. But this Houston backcourt is very experienced. You have a Milos Uzan, you have an Emmanuel Sharp, 2 guys who are expected to take on the lion's share of this offense for Kelvin Sampson and this Houston team. But Kingston Flemings crashed the party. He emerged so well to that. He is this team's primary point guard, this primary leader on the floor. He's the alpha. Everything's going through him. And probably the best thing that I can say about him is, just like with Cam Boozer, when this Houston team plays their best opponents, so his production across the board in top 50 ranked games per Bar Torvik, again, his stats go up across the board. He's been incredible. He's been a clutch shot maker, a clutch operator for this team. He is probably the best alpha point guard right now that I could point to. If you end up with a top 4, top 5 pick and you need a guard, go after someone like a Kingston Flemings out of Houston.
Would you say, you wouldn't say Peterson's a point guard, right? He's kind of a little bit higher than that. Or would you say Kingston is the first point guard that you would take off the board?
I'd say Darren's more of a combo guard / wing in that edge. I would consider Kingston Flemings as a pure point guard. And if we're talking point guards, he is the number one point guard I'd take off the board right now.
So he's the next guy that could go into tier 2. Interesting that a freshman like that came in and just like messed up everything they're doing because he was so good. Caleb Wilson, also another guy that the Mavs could consider. But coming up, the Mavs land 8th or 9th, which is they have like a 66% chance to be in 8th or 9th. They could still get some good guys. Like Nathan said, good point guards available there. Who should they get? We'll talk about that more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Quo. We're trying to streamline communications all the time in our daily lives. We're trying to talk better with people in a relationship that you're in a relationship with your family members, with neighbors. If you got a shared fence, you're trying to streamline communications in every way you possibly can. There has to be a better way. Something I say to myself all the time. And there is when it comes to business and business communications. Quo, Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communication. When your team is reachable, organized, and communicating all in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Quo makes everything simple. This is how it works. Your whole team can call or text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everyone can see the full conversation, which makes replies faster and more personal. It works right from your phone and computer. You can even keep your existing number, which is crucial. You don't have to create one of those Facebook groups we used to do back in high school where it was like, new number, who dis? And Quo smart AI tools automatically log calls and summarize conversations and highlight next steps so details never slip through the cracks. No surprise, Quo is the number one rated phone business system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, I'm here with Nathan Grubel from Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings. No ceilings. It's funny that you do your tiers like considering the ceilings of each player, because then you do that on No Ceilings. So you're like, hey, this is the ceilings for all these guys, and I'm going to share that on No Ceilings.
There's no ceilings at No Ceilings.
Okay, you guys have no ceilings. The players all have ceilings in one way or the other. Everyone does. I guess we all do in some way. We've talked about the top 3 guys. Talked about Caleb Wilson. Talked about Kingston Flemings. Give me somebody else in that tier 3 that you have that you could see potentially like rising up into the next spot.
I'm going to give you a name here who you're not necessarily going to hear discussed at length on other podcasts. However, I am adamant that he is special. He's a star in the making. He's been a star in the making almost his whole life. Christian Anderson, playing point guard right now at Texas Tech, almost 20 points per game, 7 assists, 49% from the field, 43% from three-point range, 77 from the line. That's a 63.4 true shooting percentage for a guard, a 34 assist rate, a 10.8 BPM. Per Synergy Sports, he rates out in the 80th percentile in terms of total offense, the 60th percentile in terms of total defense. His pick and roll numbers across the board are excellent. Only a 9.1 turnover rate in pick and roll possessions. He's rated out as good to excellent on offense across the board by Synergy, hitting 42% of every single jump shot that he takes, 43% of his catch and shoot threes, 40.5% on all of his threes off the dribble, and he's also finishing 62% at the rim. Nick, he is the only player in the country right now who can say that he and his team have wins over both Cameron Boozer and AJ Dybantsa. In both of those games, he played all 80 minutes. So he's averaging about 39 minutes played for the season. It's insane. He scored 49 points, 12 assists, 53.5% from 2 in those 2 games, and 47% from 3-point range. I've known Christian's family for a long time. I've seen him specifically come up the ranks. He got an offer from Michigan when he was a freshman point guard, standing about 5'6". Now he stands at about 6'3" because he is an absurd scorer, shooter. He's become an elite playmaker. He's been underrated basically his entire life. And he's put everyone on notice that he's here to win. He's here to dominate. And he's one of the best at his position. If there was one particular thing that I would nitpick with Christian, which is why at this moment I have Kingston Flemings over him, I think Kingston Flemings has that next level burst in terms of just breaking down one man to beat, he can get by whoever's guarding him at the top of the floor. I think Christian definitely operates a lot better with a screen, someone to actually free him up on offense. But once he gets that screen, he's as good of a playmaker as any guard in the country. I've watched him make passes with either hand, any type of pass you need made. He can get the ball to where it needs to go. He is a lethal pull-up shooter, has all the craft once he gets inside the arc, can keep someone on his hip, can snake a ball screen, can hit those mid-range shots, get to the rim, draw fouls. He is a star in the making, and why, if I were the Dallas Mavericks with pick 8, pick 9, maybe even if they were able to acquire another pick later in the first round, if he dropped, if people weren't necessarily coming to the consensus that I would take a long, hard look at Christian Anderson, because the Mavs in particular are set up with the big wing and Cooper Flagg to take pressure off of him. He can work ball screens with Cooper Flagg. You have someone like Dereck Lively, who's one of the most dynamic role threats that we have in the NBA when he's on the court. This, to me, the Mavs are such a quote-unquote blank slate moving forward, because we don't know what's going to happen with the rest of this roster after the trade deadline and this coming summer. I think there's an opportunity to draft a point guard, develop him behind Kyrie, and someone with a star ceiling like that. I'd have a very hard time passing on someone like Christian Anderson.
To be clear as to how kind of wild this take is, ESPN has him at like 35, 38. And
Jeremy Woo, I think, has had him in the early second round for a lot of it. Yeah. Although I will say consensus, he's been coming into the first round on a lot of mock drafts across the web.
And even No Ceilings big board, your composite big board has him at 21 right now. So you are higher than pretty much anybody on him right now. And that's interesting to hear. The Mavs obviously need a point guard. Sounds like somebody the Mavs should take a long, hard look at. Is there any point guards you would have ahead of him, or anybody else you'd take it at 8 or 9?
So I have Christian Anderson right behind Kingston Flemings.
Wow.
However, right behind him are 3 more point guards who very confident scouts probably do have higher than Christian, but LeBaron Philon out of Alabama, Michael Brown Jr. out of Louisville, probably has the highest upside of any of these point guards that we can discuss. And then Darius Haycuff at Arkansas has also been cooking in the SEC in his own right. So this point guard class, there may be some differences with scouts in terms of where they're ranked within the lottery or within the top 20. But I think consensus-wise, these are all point guards that have top 20 grades. The reason why I have them all sandwiched together, the back half of my top 10, is because when we just talk about dribble, pass, shoot, star level upsides, I see all of these qualities from these guards in different ways. They all go about their business differently, but they all blend those skill sets wonderfully together. Dribble, pass, shoot, don't crater my defense is the name of the game in the NBA.
Yeah, right.
Unless I'm mistaken. And if that's the case, all of these guys offer you, considerable upside moving forward. So again, Dallas Mavericks fans, Flemings, Anderson, Philon, Brown, Acuff, take your pick out of those 5 guys. I guarantee you're going to have a really quality point guard to build with both now and in the future.
Can you give me, you talked about the difference, how these guys go about it. Can you give me a quick difference between Acuff, Mikel Brown Jr., and then the other one you said was LeBaron Philon?
Yep. So LeBaron Philon, very much a in the middle of the floor operator, loves to get 2 feet in the paint, has a great runner that he can go to, can get shots at the rim. Another really good pick and roll playmaker. The jump shot has been his weak point throughout his career, although second year at Alabama now. He's made significant strides in the 3-point shot compared to where he was. He was low 30s. Now he's shooting 38% from 3, shooting much better on threes off the dribble. He, to me, if I was going to pick a guard to leapfrog Christian and maybe, challenge Kingston in that next tier, LeBaron would probably be my guy. Very impressive guy who has developed considerably from one year to the next. Mikel Brown, 6'5", explosive driver. I mean, some of the dunks that he creates in the half court, Nick, just beating one man off the bounce, getting to the rim and finishing, yamming it home with one hand. He's been spectacular as a driver. We've seen a lot of the pull-up shooting craft, the deep range that he has in the FIBA U19s. This past summer, absolutely killed it for the United States. Really high potential for him. And then Darius Acuff is one of those guys who loves to dribble the air out of the ball, break his man down, and nail that step-back jump shot. That was really his profile coming into college, although we've seen him explore, peeling back some of those next layers of his game, making progressions, reading that second, third, fourth level of the defense out of the pick and roll, making that next read, setting his guys up, being a lot better in terms of his shot selection, his decision-making. He has great frame for a guard. I think has more upside on the defensive end than people give him credit for. Just another one of those guys who's still refining his game as a point guard, refining his decision-making, but he also has considerable upside as a 3-level shot maker at the point guard spot.
Another guy, just so much talent coming into the draft.
This is an insane draft, Nick. It's an insane draft.
So many point guards as well. So Mavs fans should be happy to hear about that. You mentioned a couple articles you have at No Ceilings. You can go check out Nathan's stuff at Draft Deeper. Anywhere else? Anything else you want to plug?
No, I think we have a lot of content still coming throughout this entire cycle from No Ceilings. Myself in particular, I'm going to be doing a great job over the coming months, breaking down each lottery team in their range in particular and trying to figure out what they've been doing on the court this season. What are their assets like moving forward? Who makes sense for them to actually target in the draft? So keep your eyes on NoCeilingsNBA.com for coverage about whatever your team is. I promise we're writing about them.
I'll give you the quick on the Mavs. The Mavs have no point guards at all. The Mavs have one pick in 2026, and then they don't own their own pick until, I don't know, like people in high school are graduated from college. So
go get one of these point guards, man.
Go check out Nathan's stuff at No Ceilings. Go listen to Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings. Great stuff happening all the time over there. We'll have more a little bit later. I think I'm going to do a bonus talking about the Anthony Davis potential Jimmy Butler swap. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out. Boom.